Did I just find a Christian film that I agree with? So this one was a bit of a mission. While I was diving in the dumpster, I found not a movie, but a movie trailer for the 2015 film Pass the Light. It's obvious from the trailer that this is a Christian film, but it actually seemed to have a universally good message. Wait, did I just find a Christian film that I agree with? The universe should be imploding about now, shouldn't it? Of course, I had to know if this actually was a decent Christian film, so I started tracking it down. I'm not gonna lie, it was not easy, and it led me having to pay for it on christiancinema.com. Now they have my credit card number. I am not at all comfortable with that. But here it is, Pass the Light, starring Cameron Pilatus, Dalpree Greer, Ali DeBerry, Milena Govich, Lawrence St. Victor, John Gries. Quite frankly, I myself would only recognize John Gries from Napoleon Dynamite, but those of you who actually watch modern television shows might recognize a few more people, so that might just be me. So now the question remains, is this film all that I cracked it up to be in my own head? Well, we're off to a promising start. Everything from the get-go is pretty stereotypical of a Christian film. Typical chintzy Christian pop song, audio from an obviously fake call-in radio show, kind of bad dialogue, stereotypical bullying, the usual sidekick just for laughs friend, clunky exposition with his fighting parents because dad got laid off and mom wants him to find a job.
Say what you want, but don't undermine me in front of Steve.
She didn't. I mean, God forbid the male child knows that his mother makes more money than his father. You'd think this was the 21st century. Despite Steve's world apparently being full of anxiety and dejection, he still volunteers at a soup kitchen on Saturdays. Of course he does! The worse a Christian film protagonist's life is, the holier they usually are. Because we know how sweet teenage boys usually are, Christian or not. I know there are many that are, but everyone depicted in these films is frickin' Job from the Bible.
In 2 Corinthians, we're told.
Wait, what?
In 2 Corinthians.
2 Corinthians.
2 Corinthians.
You're a pastor. You should know better. This guy is a... Well, never mind what he is, but you should know better. For the record, it is the second letter written to the Corinthians, hence 2 Corinthians. When you say 2 Corinthians, it sounds like 2 Corinthians got together and wrote it. The pastor then announces that Franklin Bauman, a man running for Congress, has joined their church.
I am honored to have the chance to earn your trust as the legendary Congressman Louis Reams is going to be stepping down after 36 years.
Maybe the pastor thinks 2 Corinthians is a politician thing and he's sucking up. Psst, it's not a politician thing. It's just a this guy thing. Oh, another trope, Steve is crushing on cute cheerleader Jackie, who is dating the captain of the football team. But don't worry, she's also a Christian, so it's okay. Franklin Bauman is now campaigning, and it's a hateful "we are in a war" message.
People think fiscal issues and moral issues are 2 separate things, and I'm here to tell you that they're one and the same.
That's disconcerting. It seems like someone wrote something about freedom of religion somewhere. Where was that? Oh yeah, it's the First Amendment! The next day, someone has spray painted Tramp across Jackie's locker. Naturally, Steve volunteers to wash it off during study hall. Naturally, he does. Later on, Frank Bauman is speaking at the school rally.
Looking around this room, it's easy to see what's important.
The color red. The rhetoric goes on until finally...
Sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, I said, do you ever shut your mouth?
Well, can you blame him? He's a perfect Christian kid, and this is the thanks he gets.
And that backup flanker, Steve Bellafiore.
Steve proceeds to say that the true Christian message is being lost in his fear-mongering. The coach then kicks him out of the first game, and his dad is so disappointed.
You embarrass me and your mother. Do you know how that makes us look?
That's your concern, you egocentric maniac?
He has a plan to make things better.
And what's his plan, Dad? Hate everyone that sins and we'll get the jobs back? He's a moron. And if you believe what he's saying, I can't even respect you anymore. Mom, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't mean to embarrass you guys. I just can't stand listening to the hate coming out of that dude's mouth anymore.
I never asked you to apologize.
Well, you could be a little more supportive at this moment, but at least you're not being a dick.
Leviticus tells us that if a man should lie with a male as with a woman, both have committed an abomination and shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them.
Okay, while I applaud this film's depiction of this as hate speech, I still feel like this needs to be addressed. I could go on about the things listed in Leviticus and other parts of the Old Testament that God supposedly doesn't like shellfish and mixed fabrics and boiling a goat in its mother's milk, but let me suffice to say this. A few verses before this one, God says adulterers should also be put to death. God felt that was important enough to be listed before the man lying with another man bugaboo. Yet, every Christian leader caught with his pants down or named in the Ashley Madison scandal is still alive, or at least has not been put to death in the name of the Lord. Let's not even get into the Ted Haggard thing right now. Are you really willing to admit that you cherry pick the verses you still abide by in the Old Testament simply because you also happen to find something icky? Adultery is even among what modern Christians consider to be God's top 10 list of big-time no-nos. Homosexuality is not. So if you're willing to let adulterers walk among you alive and be leaders or even elected officials, you sure as hell better be okay with homosexuals too.
Then I don't want anybody like that in the White House.
Shut up, Iowa caucus lady. Franklin's speeches are making the community behave hatefully towards each other in totally realistic ways.
Yo, where you going, freak? Hey, excuse me, Franklin Bauman says you're dirt, man.
That night, Steve gets a brilliant idea.
I'm gonna run for Congress.
First thing we gotta see is how old you gotta be to run for Congress. I turn 18 in 2 weeks, so hopefully 18 is the number.
Yeah, it's more like 25.
You gotta be 25 to run for Congress.
You placed third in the election for class treasurer freshman year. Frank Long got second, and he has chronic halitosis.
Is fresh breath an important quality for a treasurer?
The point isn't really to win. I want people to hear a different voice. I want them to hear a voice with no hate in it.
Fair enough. Not sure how kindly a bunch of obnoxious teenagers are going to take to this, and sure enough, they really don't.
Sure you don't want to run for lunch, lady? They're holding elections in the kitchen.
Clever, clever.
Son, it's better not to ruffle any feathers. There's no sense in going after something that can't work.
Geez, Daddy Downer. That felt kind of dirty. I'm not going to call him that anymore.
Just give me a sign that this isn't your plan.
Well, Frank Bauman might be the Antichrist, making him part of God's plan. You might be interrupting the apocalypse, young man, and you know how God loves his apocalypses. Later, Steve discovers that the man who runs the soup kitchen is, in fact, a homosexual.
Most folks know, but they don't want to know. As long as I keep it out of their face, I exist fine.
Steve suggests that he should go to church to pray the gay away, I guess.
Church? What does that have to do with anything?
I just wish there was a way that you and Billy didn't have to feel silenced and alone. Faith Crusaders, let's ride.
Oh, don't make up cutesy names for yourselves. Suddenly, Jackie decides to help them out.
People aren't hearing you because you're just another guy yelling at them.
Thank you!
Your game shouldn't be to show people why he's wrong. It should be to show people why you're right.
Preach it, sister.
Don't be another guy who just talks. Show us.
Jackie suggests that they recruit the yearbook committee to get the word out about what Steve is doing.
Dudes, why is Jackie Burns talking to us?
Because stereotypes are still funny, right?
But we can be the force behind that
The force!
change.
Boom! That's what we'll call ourselves.
No, don't do that.
Kind of makes me think of Star Wars, though.
It very much so makes me think of Star Wars.
Actually, I like the Force.
We'll just agree to disagree, sweetheart, but oh, y'all are actually gonna do it, okay. The Force comes up with Operation Pass the Light. Yes, we have a title, folks. They leave personalized notes in every single person's locker at school, which is admirable. A bit unrealistic, but admirable. Poor Jenny, all they could think to write to her is, "You're so cool." I guess it's better than, "Jenny, hey, the Force." They ruin the moment with more crappy Christian music, but again, it's admirable. The school is all abuzz about these notes.
That was crazy today, huh?
What's crazy is Jackie wearing that short of a skirt in a Christian school and not getting pulled out for dress code violation. Oh, it's you. Steve drags his parents out to, are they at church? Somewhere they presumably had to drive because he lectures them about staying married, then steals the car so they have to walk home. But it works, so that's something. The Force gains more recruits and they start cleaning up the school to the sounds of more crappy music. They start free tutoring in the library. Other Christian schools join in the movement and Frank Bauman is still out there. He demeans the whole Pass the Light movement as basically, oh, those cute crazy kids and their rose-colored glasses. Apparently, an abundance of high schoolers on his doorstep convinces Dad that he should join in the campaign.
All right, cupcakes, I'm in.
That's quotable. Dad and Jackie go to the news station to try to get some press. Anchor Lady says no at first, but eventually agrees to cover the pancake breakfast on Saturday. Of course, Frank Bauman is there and puts his arms around the two gay dudes and thanks them for putting it on. This is admittedly a satisfying moment. Steve wants to debate Frank even though he can't win the election. Frank says on camera that he will debate Steve if he gets 3,000 signatures agreeing to this.
We get official The Force t-shirts, so people know it's us.
Why doesn't anyone else seem to have a problem with this Force thing? They start a community outreach using odd jobs, which is slow to take off at first, but at least Dad is not being a negative dick anymore. Of course, who calls them first for an odd job but Wes, the captain of the football team, and his partially finished house? Because the cool kid in school called them, now their phones are ringing off the hook. Who knew the high school football captain had that kind of pull in the community? When Steve hands Frank the 3,000 signatures they gathered and asks again for the debate, Frank refuses.
And it is said in 2 Corinthians,
yeah!
And it is our duty to stand up in the face of injustice.
Willie stands up in the middle of the sermon and bemoans Frank going back on his word.
This is not the place to talk politics. You are in a church.
Funny, because you seem more than eager to bring church into politics. Oh wait, there's that whole tax-exempt thing. Never mind, can't mess with that.
If you're in favor of Steve Bellafiore being allowed to debate, please stand.
Well, I was already standing. Are you counting that? So now that Frank looks like an asshole to his constituents and to his wife, he has no choice now but to let Steve debate. Why is the candidate to the political left using the slogan, the right choice? I guess the choice that's left sounds a bit unenthusiastic.
Your Christianity divides people. You preach judgment and even war, but that is not the Christianity that my father taught me. Pete Bellafiore taught me about inclusion, about acceptance.
Meanwhile, the Democrat is like, did I even need to show up tonight? The next morning, Jackie has an idea.
I have an idea.
Voting day rolls around and everyone is nervous about the election.
Bellafiore, I need you in uniform. Suit up.
Are you serious, Coach?
Heck yes, I am.
We're riding your publicity train, kid. Do we care that he's still not very good at football, and now that he's skipped a bunch of practices, he's really not very good at football? In a plot twist, not only does Steve finally catch the damn ball and make a touchdown, the winner of the congressional race is Steve's dad, Pete. Apparently, everyone went to the polls that day and handed out flyers to all of the voters walking in to vote for Dad. Dad, who apparently didn't even know about this, is awfully calm about it, considering nobody knows what his views on the economy or infrastructure are, but the end anyway. Well, it's true this film has pretty questionable acting, kinda bad writing, probably because the screenplay was apparently written in 1 week, and way too much badly mixed annoying Christian music, but this seems like a film that at least Christians would like. So how did it wind up in the dumpster, buried in the dumpster? The Los Angeles Times put one of the biggest problems with the screenplay best. Giving him, Steve, a personal demon or character flaw of his own would have made him a more relatable role model for the teen audience to whom the filmmakers are clearly preaching. That being said, it doesn't appear that many of those teenagers even saw the film in the first place. Why? This thing seems to have won every single award in the Christian Film Festival. Could have been the only one that entered. Otherwise, it had a limited release in theaters and now it's just really hard to find. There's a Facebook page that is now promoting a different film called Be the Light, and the film website passthelightmovie.com is just a Tumblr page. Well, in a way, it's too bad this film is inexplicably not out there, because despite its glaring flaws, this is a message that we need to hear right now. This is a message not just for Christians, but for every human who wants the human race to, well, survive. Instead of tearing apart the country with your speech on why they are all wrong, why don't you shut your face and show us why you are right? Whether you are religious and believe a supreme being is judging all of your actions, or you're not religious and you believe the human race has survived this long because we are a cooperative species, this message applies to you. Whatever the outcome of the upcoming elections in America or in any other country allowing fair elections, I won't mention Russia by name, the fact is we still have to live together. And work together, and involuntarily commune with each other. So isn't it logical then to try to make this existence better for all of us? That seems to be the message of this film. No matter what, we are a community, and this will be a much more pleasant community if we can all get along and mutually respect one another. When one person gets in front of cameras and spouts off reasons to separate ourselves from other people in the community, it's going to have an effect. And many times we react to this attitude by attacking back. And then it becomes this big thing, and we start coming up with nicknames, and everyone eventually hates everyone, but when you dig into the reasons why, no one really knows. And it gets worse when none of us want to change that. When we won't even hear each other out to try to understand or try to come to some sort of fair agreement. They're the enemy, and I like calling them goofy names. Whereas this film says, we are not an animal, we are a human being. I jumped movies again, damn it. God, do I really have to use that word again? The Force left encouraging notes for everyone. They offered everyone tutoring if they needed and wanted it. They offered help to everyone. They sent out the message that everyone has the right to be heard and make a difference. Basically, people who were in the position to do so said, hey, I have the means to help this person who does not have the means, so I will contribute to help them. I'm not endorsing any candidate for the United States presidential election in 2020. I'm just saying maybe you should think twice about who you plan to vote for. What kind of person do you want representing you and your country? Someone who's telling us about the supposed bad in certain people, or someone showing us the potential good in everyone?
Go Big Steve! Woo! It kind of makes me think of Star Wars.
Look at the bright side.
What's the bright side?
I don't know.
The only way to true moral strength is to not be corrupted by these wicked, vile people.
Vote for Steve, better be alright!
All right, cupcakes, I'm in.
Yeah, still thinking of Star Wars.